Hello everybody, thanks very much for coming. I'm Jemima Burrill and I'm the curator at Now Gallery, and thanks very much for getting here this evening. I just thought I'd quickly let you know how this is going to work. I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes and I'm going to look at the influences, sort of how we came up with the idea of the Fashion Commission. And then I'm also going to look at the 4 designers who came before Lola. And just a little bit about the job. When I got the job, there wasn't a gallery here. It was literally like a car park with tumbleweed. There was nothing here. And I was employed by Night Dragon, and they're developers who are building 14,000 homes here. And they're going to create a whole new neighbourhood. And they're kind of creative developers, which is fantastic. And they wanted to bring people to Greenwich Peninsula, so that's one of the reasons why the gallery is here. And they wanted to create a sort of cultural conversation. So what I suggested was 3 shows a year, 1 design, 1 art, and 1 fashion. And it was to get an individual in who could come up with a kind of bonkers new idea, something kind of unprecedented, to fill that kind of crazy space over there. And it was an opportunity to do something new. And fashion was key to this. And I was just talking earlier to you guys about what it is about fashion. What it is about fashion, I think it's the fact that it's for everybody. You know, everybody has their own fashion take. It may be good, it may be bad, but they have one. And it's also incredibly glamorous. I mean, you know, you see the most incredibly glamorous creations, you know, around. And the fashion designers are good at deadlines. I mean, on the whole. Are fashion designers good at deadlines? Yeah. On the whole, they're pretty good. But also they're good at creative solutions, which is what we needed for the space. And we needed to create a buzz to get people down here. We needed to generate publicity. And also, you know what, just have an alternative view of the place. Someone comes here, you know, we all think of it as we do. Actually, you get someone new in and they look at it in a different way, which is really kind of, you know, interesting and exciting. So just to give you a little bit of context, I'm an artist. I'm an artist first, I'm a curator second, and I went to Chelsea, and then I went to the Royal College and I studied sculpture. So I'm just going to show you my first slide, if I can get this thing to work, as well as the... No, is it on? Hold on. Will someone come and help me with it? Oh no, hold on. Haha. Just have to turn it on. It's one of those miraculous things. So this is Annette Messenger. I saw this at the Venice Biennale, and it blew me away. It was like this kind of crazy space that undulated, and it was, you know, like a womb. It was completely visceral and sort of saturated my retina. And I thought that is a sort of superb. It makes you feel something. That's what it is. It's a feel exhibition. And then we'll go on to Sheila Hicks, who is she's a dude. And what's different about her is she's multidisciplinary. She is an artist, but she also does craft. She fills spaces with fabric, and she's interested in design and architecture. And I think that for this gallery space, we're interested in that kind of crossover, that multidisciplinary crossover. Our designers work as artists, our artists work as designers, and our fashion designers work with everybody. I mean, just huge collaborations with the fashion designers we have. Next is Alexandra McQueen. Who saw this exhibition? I mean, everybody saw this exhibition. And if you don't, you're very foolish. I think what I liked about this exhibition, and particularly this room, I'm not so sure that, you know, just the garments really turned me on, but this room where you got to see the videos and you kind of were immersed in Alexander McQueen. It told you a story. You could almost smell him there. And I think that it's getting the essence of a designer that we've been trying to do here. I think we've got the essence of Mo Lola over there. And then the last key thing for us, which we've learnt about, is interactivity. So I think you can see from the space that without the drapes, it's a big goldfish bowl. that you could easily just walk past it and think, oh yeah, that's a nice show, and not go in. So what we realised is it has to have an interactive element. And Faye Toogood did this, actually it was not at Somerset House. I don't know if anybody went to the V&A. I think it was for a London Design Festival. And Kyra in the back, thank you very much. And you got to wear one of her coats. She had these wonderful foam coats, and you got to put one on, and you got to walk around the V&A in it. And I just thought it was a really good example of interaction. So now we're going to go on to Phoebe English. And I like the fact that she's sort of black and white, rather like Faye Toogood. She has a sort of black and white aesthetic. She was the first person we curated here. And the reason that I chose her was because I saw this in Dover Street Market. And I thought, who's that who's doing not a garment, but something else, who's doing something sculptural? And we got her in, and she pitched this idea, which was a big pile of pins in the gallery, and we were told by our health and safety people that we couldn't do it. And I was like, oh God. So what she did instead was this. And what I love about this piece, not only is it 70 grams of beads, but it's also, sorry, can you guys see? Am I totally in your way? Because I'll move it. Can you see?
Can you see now?
Do you want me to move out of the way?
Slightly there.
Oh,
That's right, yeah.
I've just given myself away. I'm going to take that now.
That's my bit.
Oh, no. Close your eyes. Everybody's got to close your eyes. 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 Alice said that something would go wrong, but I mean, yeah, really. So, where was I with it? The thing about this is it's sort of precise, it's measured, but it's also quite chaotic. And it's delicate, but it's also so substantial. And Phoebe has this thing about not quite finishing her clothes. I'm very proud of my Phoebe English jacket here. But generally there's sort of something, there's some hem that's not finished. And this was such a good example of that here, I think. And then we also had her vitrines. So people would come in and look at them. And they're about her process, and there's her tools, and there's her materials. And what I loved is that people would, be peering down, and then there would be people walking along, and they'd see people peering down, and they'd come in to see what they were, So it just worked. And so that was kind of our first realization that interaction was a good idea. Molly Goddard. What can I say about this show? I mean, look at that. Photographed by Charles Emerson, totally brilliant photographer. And it was such a simple thing. She pitched, she came with a drawing of a dress, with a pulley, with people sewing around it. I mean, that's such a great pitch. And it really was it just sort of happened. And her mother, who used to be her stylist and, got her shows together, Sarah Goddard, just made this happen. And it just happened. It was a really fantastic, I just sort of let her get on with it. So the one thing I think you might want to ask me, and please do at the end if you have any questions, I'm very happy. I may not be able to use this thing properly, but I can answer questions. So one of the things I thought you might ask is, how do we find our designers? So we talk to people. There are some experts out there. I give Sarah Mower a DM, and I say, what do you think? You talk to people who know about it, and then you watch shows. You just think, and then some of the shows will just stick out more than others. And you look for people who you think are kind of doing something which is sort of beyond just fashion, that has a sort of edge to it. And then sort of very key for this particularly, we got Molly just before she hit the kind of stratosphere. I mean, we got her when she had the time and energy to do a show. I mean, just think, fashion designers are generally doing 2 shows a year, and then to have to come up with something like this, kind of in between that, and put sort of time and energy into it. So we have to get the designers just at that moment before they kind of, hit the big time. I think this is particularly true again with Charles. I just got to talk about this side. So this was the sewing. The sewing was such a treat to do. And people came in and they sat around and they chatted to their next door neighbour and they discovered things about each other that they didn't know before. And it was such a wonderful community event. And the dresses just looked so fantastic afterwards. So we'll go on to Charles Jeffrey now. Charles Jeffrey, I suppose we had two designers who were women's wear designers, and we thought actually it'd be quite interesting to have a men's wear designer and maybe have a more esoteric approach, so not have clothes, have something completely different. Sort of, less about clothes and more about capturing a vibe. And Charles came in, he rocks, and he was just totally irresistible. And he had this idea that, he was just going to show his head, the sort of ideas in his head in the gallery. That is his head, let me tell you. And he was just a sort of, he was a massive sparkler. He was fantastic. And also, before he came in and pitched, it was that thing about his shows. Have you seen his shows? They have sculptural pieces on them, like people walking around in kind of huge, foam suits. So he was, we knew he would have a kind of sculptural take on the gallery, which he did. And I think the other thing about it it was about his community. It was about the Loverboy community. And these icebergs, as we call them, people came in and drew faces on. So that he said it was to open up their alter egos and let creativity take over. And sort of be the representation of people's identities, but also sort of safe haven for people to come and enjoy the space and enjoy who he is. So did anybody come to his launch? Oh my God. You missed a big one. He had a massive Mohican. He had like a load of crew in the most amazing kind of costumes. And it was totally mad. People wrote rude things on the walls. It was just way out of control, but it was fantastic. We had a confetti cannon that just we had confetti coming out of our ears for like weeks afterwards. But I think the key thing about this is we got a really interesting bunch of people to come to the gallery who hadn't been to Greenwich Peninsula before, except for maybe to go to O2. So you do these things to get people here and also to have a really good time. We had a really good time. And Lola's launch, this was really... Did anybody come to Lola's launch? Woo! It was good. We had Skepta playing. It was really amazing. But I think it was more about her musical collaborations and who she really enjoys working with. And she had, Eve Tumor and Lola Juice, and they came to play. But it was about her pure connection with music and what she feels is important in her life was sort of manifested in this evening. It was fantastic. So we've got, this is two more slides before Lola, just to keep you in the picture. So this is Richard Malone, another, total sweetheart. So his private view was very different, but it was equally successful in that he got Sarah Mower down, who's a sort of fashion influencer, extraordinary woman, and that was a talk for the private view, and it worked really well. And I think the thing about Richard is he really loves women, so he designs for women. He talks to women. He gets feedback about his clothes. He designs for Bjork, and he has chats with Bjork about, how his clothes feel. He really loves women. And he also had Sinead Burke, who so one of the audios was her talking about disability, and she said, as a disabled woman, she's a small woman who wears absolutely beautiful clothes. Designed by Gucci. And she said, as a disabled woman, I firmly believe in the phrase, if you can see it, you can be it. And I just loved that. So he sort of reacts to women's desires. And also he looks at sustainability. So all his cotton, he goes to India and he goes to find out who's making it, how it can be made sustainable. And these structures that everybody had the opportunity. So there was like couture that you could come and try on in the gallery. And, I don't think you got to do that in the V&A at the Alexandra McQueen. You didn't. Here, you could try on a Richard Malone. And they were all made out of recycled uniforms, which I thought was great. So it's really about the sort of essence of making and seeing how stuff was made. So lastly about Richard, he was really hands-on, which I loved. I loved working with him. He talked to these dancers, choreographer, yeah, choreographed. Thank you. Choreographed. Sorry. These three dancers, and it's really a shame that it's not a moving image because it was totally fantastic. They were kind of moving in and out, and it totally changed the sort of space out there because you had these three bonkers dancers, in Peninsula Square. It was wonderful, and he was also like Charles Jeffrey, draws exquisitely, really, yeah, good. So we're going on to Moa. Oh, not quite. So when Moa Lola came in to pitch for this show, so what I didn't say actually is sort of from about Charles onwards, what we decided to do was get 3 fashion designers in to come up with ideas. So we've had some really amazing people pitch and not get the gig, which is quite something. And, by the time Molly had happened, people were really interested in doing it, which is fantastic. So Moa came in, and she came in with a Katerina Gross sketch. A picture of, this was at South London Gallery. She's one of my favourite artists. I totally love her. She kind of immerses space in colour. And this seemed like such a good, to actually try and immerse the gallery in colour, which is what I think she has done with her drapes. And it was sort of Nigerian punk she was talking about. I think she holds Lagos really close to her heart, but she also is looking worldwide. So I think she has both those bits of identity within her. I was also interested because she actually does menswear and women's wear, and she makes men and women equally sexy in her clothes. They look equally good. We went to see her show. Kaya, do you remember going and seeing her show? And it was, breathtaking. It was so wild and so sexy. So she had to do it, obviously. And also that she was really interested in collaborating with other people. We had never had anybody before who really wanted to collaborate with musicians. And I think her kind of painterly sensitivity that she uses in her drapes is wonderful. And also that she collaborated with Nike. Did we decide what it was? Nike or Nike?
Nike.
Is it Nike? Okay. We were discussing this earlier on. You think Nike? Nike. But then someone was saying hike. It should be hike, Nike. Anyway, whatever. So Nike. So she's collaborated with Nike. And the gimp suits that you see, the suits that the mannequins are wearing that are so tiny, I can't even put my little toe in them. So that fabric has been designed specially for the exhibition for her. And, it's what's it called, Magda? It's got a special name.
It's Fly Knit.
Fly Knit.
Yeah.
Fly Knit. It's just made for the show by Nike. It was pretty amazing. And she's also interested in film. So, there's a lot going on. She's worked with Jordan Hemingway. The film is by Jordan Hemingway, and she's worked with Eve Toomer on the film. It's good. Oh, I think I was meant to have gone on there. No, here, great. Oh, we're okay. Okay, you've all got a bit. I can have a little breathing space, and you can read that because I'm totally talked out. So I think this is really important because there was so much controversy about this dress and kind of, people writing to Moa Lola and saying, my son got shot and how can you be so gratuitous? But actually, from where I see it, it's that, well, actually, I'm going to quote Moa Lola because I'm not going to say it, but she says, this is the lived experience as a black person. It shows no matter how well you dressed or how well you behave, we are time after time seen as walking targets. And I suppose I feel that, however good you look, whatever you're doing, you're still dealing with a threat of violence. And I think that's a really effective thing. I think it's a really powerful dress. So to go from that to the more lightweight, I was just talking to these guys earlier about who wears Lola. Who wears Lola? Everybody wears Lola. Solange, I can never remember who they are because I'm just not cool enough to know. Solange, Beyonce, who? Beyonce's sister. Is that one? And Steve Lacey, who's he? Should I know? Okay, sorry. I know I should know this. And Skepta, look, Skepta wore Lola at our launch. Look at him, yeah. And you know who else wears Lola? Barbie wears Lola. So they was like, I think Vogue selected 6, cool designers. This was after we selected her to do Barbie. So there you go. We're nearly there, I promise. You've seen all this before anyway, but Lola's collaborators. I mean, there are so many of them. And in fact, Magda wrote me a list. Thank you, Magda. And I'm not going to read all of them out. But Shy Girl and Eve Tuma. Eve Tuma, what a cool dude. If you don't know him, he's just the coolest man around. And they have tracks on the MP3 players, which were made especially for the exhibition. Bodysuits by Nike, headphones with Beats. The makeup was by Daniel, and I've never been able to say this, Salstrom. Daniel Salstrom did the makeup for the ladies. I'm sure they're not called ladies either, but and Sylvie McMillan did the nails. There was a video made by Aidan Zamiri, and etc. And Grace Ladoja was involved as well. She was involved with management, and actually we can't forget to say Thomas Petherick, and Andy Knight, who actually made the exhibition. So loads of people, and that's what was really fantastic about working with her, because it brought all these people together. And she kind of really does that and makes them have a good time, and they do have a good time. It's great. So I think 2 more. One, press. Again, I think the key thing with this gallery is that you can have something really amazing. You can do really amazing things. If you don't photograph them well or film them well, thank you very much over there, Carlos. If you don't, then no one knows about them. So we have an amazing photographer called Charles Emerson, who's shot all our, he did the beautiful shots of Molly. I mean, you've got to have that, and then it can go out to, in this case, Lola was in Vogue USA, Vogue UK, Vogue Italy, Another Days, Garage Love, Natal, Wallpaper, and there's more. And the other thing was we talked to Aidan, and he did a video with Lola, sort of the making of the exhibition, and that went to Dazed. And if you don't make that video, it doesn't go to Dazed. So you have to make sure that you really kind of respect what you've got and do the best you can with it. So this is it. I think I'm just going to finish with Lola said, "This is my approach on full volume." And then she said, "But it can always go louder." So I'm wondering what is louder than that. And also that it was a real pleasure to work with, a 24-year-old woman who was so self-assured, and she's claimed the space in such an exceptional way. So thank you everyone for bearing with my fumbles. And does anybody have any questions? Come on, yes.
How far in advance do you sort of book the artists that you collaborate with for the events?
That's a good question. Do you know what else I'm going to say before this? Kaya says I'm not allowed to say this. But actually, you know what? It's a team effort. This is a total team effort. That we couldn't do this. I couldn't do this. We do it together. So Kaya's my co-curator, and Magda works with us, and Ella, who's not here. But we do it together, and we plan probably about a year. Yeah. So we're looking. Yeah. I have to say that we don't know who's coming in next year. I mean, this is the end of this year. So about a year in advance. So we're looking now for fashion at the end of the year. Anybody got any other questions?
What were your first thoughts when you saw her work?
Lola's.
Yeah.
I think it was what was amazing is that when she came with the idea, it was really well formed. So she had a render, and the render was very much like this. So I think we had a really clear. I can tell you when those drapes came out, it was just amazing. I mean, I think I think the drapes are my favourite bit. I mean, they're just fantastic. So I think it was. I mean, I have to say, I wish the models had been, size 14. That I'm really struggling with. I mean, they are so small, but it's the elegance of the piece. And actually, I think the thing I love most is the nails in the head, because quite frankly, that's what I feel like every morning. Anybody else? Go and get another drink. Thank you very much for coming. If you want to ask me something later, and I promise not to embarrass you, but please go and get a drink. And thank you very much. Is there anything else we need to say, Kaya? Is that it?